you ever considered that we are living in a unique time, that something world-changing is about to happen, and that it might concern you? If so, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and you'll hear thought-provoking views behind the news that point to a new and better future for all. Many people now sense that humanity is not alone. So consider this. If the Christ or the Buddha walked among us today as modern men, would we recognize them? What would they be saying? And most importantly, would we listen? Every Sunday on this program, Share International Radio will examine extraordinary events that are unfolding behind the headline news. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. And now, welcome to this week's show.
Welcome to Share on the Air Radio, North America. My name is Cielito Pascual. I am podcasting from Seattle, Washington on Mother's Day, May 8th, 2016. And hearing a little background noise there, I don't know where it's coming from, but I hope it's not interfering with the sound that you're hearing right now. This is show number 29, presenting thought-provoking views behind the news. And I encourage you to listen to show number 28, last week's show, hosted by my colleague and friend Diana Gold Holland. That was a very interesting show. It was entitled Maitreya's Teachings on Freedom, with guest Mike Nolly. And in a certain way, this show is a kind of a part two, because we're going to continue on the topic of the art of self-realization in the context of young people. And before I introduce my guest, I just want to welcome our regular listeners, and I want to welcome our newcomers. On this program, we talk from many different perspectives about an extraordinary event unfolding today, and that is the emergence of Maitreya, the world teacher, and the masters of wisdom. And I just want to give a shout out to OMTimes Radio for allowing us this platform. And if any of our engineers at OMTimes Radio can check if they're making any noise, because I think some noise is coming through from your end. Thanks so much. I know my guest is being very quiet. Thank you. The unfolding event today is something I won't go into enormous detail, but I will direct our newcomers to listen to our first two shows. And the easiest way to listen to our shows, you can visit OMTimes Radio. You're probably at that page now, but you can also do a search in your iTunes. We're free on iTunes, free to download. You can search on iTunes for Share on the Air Radio, and that is visually the easiest way to look at all of our programs and all the subjects that we're covering. So the first two shows are great introductions to this story on the emergence of Maitreya, the world teacher, and the masters of wisdom. Essentially, great teachers have emerged at critical periods in human history to help us to the next level of conscious awareness. And as is very clear to, I think, most human beings today, the world is in tremendous crisis, and we can be comforted by the fact of three things. One, humanity is not alone. Humanity has never been alone. We have always had the company of our great elder brothers and sisters of the spiritual hierarchy. And number two, we have help. We have help available to us from the masters of wisdom. And number three, the solutions to the world's most intractable problems are within our grasp. Those solutions are right there in front of us. So with that, I will introduce our guest. His name is Ron Cole Jr. He is an educator working with youth in Humboldt County in Northern California. For 15 years, he has combined environmental education with teaching self-awareness to young people, and has experienced tremendous success with his camps, with his team, with young people. Welcome to our show, Ron Cole.
Good afternoon, Cielito, and happy Mother's Day to all the listeners who are mothers out there.
Yes, happy Mother's Day. And there is a little bit of clicking noise there, Ron, so I just want to keep your, I know you're doing your best to...
I'll sit very still.
Isn't that what we tell kids?
I feel like I'm being conditioned.
I'm the teacher. Sit still, Ron. In any case, I think our sound sounds good now. Let's start at the top, at the beginning. Why is it important for us, us old fogies, to pay attention to what young people are saying and what they're doing today?
Well, from my own experience, I would seriously, and I do seriously listen to the kids around me in the programs, in the nonprofit work that I do, because, they speak in a way that's completely unfiltered. They say exactly what they think, what they feel, and as a result, you're getting unadulterated information, and you can work with it. As opposed to I'll use myself as an example. If you ask me a question, there are several filters that'll go through that the answer will go through before it actually gets to the person I'm talking to. And I try to remove those filters, and as in the process of my own personal growth, those filters are going away. But that's what young people are so valuable for, is their honesty.
Absolutely. And those, the filters that you're talking about, the filters of sounding smart or attempting to impress, or the filters of, am I giving the right answer? Those kinds of things.
Precisely.
Those stop us from speaking what's on our mind. Oh, I don't want to hurt someone's feeling. How do I say this right? But kids don't have that. They have a spontaneity and honesty, as you said. And there's a tremendous amount that we can learn from young people. In last week's show, hosted by my colleague Diana Gold-Holland, as I mentioned, she talked about a book, Maitreya's Teachings, the art, the laws of life. And we're going to touch on those teachings through your experience working with your nonprofit. Okay. And we've talked quite a bit prior to this show. And it's interesting. You are a student of the Ageless Wisdom Teachings. You have read the books of Benjamin Creme.
Not all the books, but yeah, I'm working my way through them.
There are a lot of them and a lot to learn from. And Benjamin Creme is the foremost exponent of this information, which has been presented since the turn of the 20th century on the emergence of Maitreya, the world teacher, and the masters of wisdom. In any case, as we were talking, I was drawing connections between what you do with kids and Maitreya's teachings. And you're actually surprised. You don't go in intentionally saying, I'm going to bring Maitreya's teachings to kids. But I definitely saw connections there that really were very insightful for me. So I'd love to bring those out as we talk on this show.
Absolutely.
So thank you for being here. I think one thing that I would love to reflect on is really how young people have an impact on the world stage today. And young people are responding to tremendous potent energies due to Maitreya's presence in the world. What are some of the events that we're seeing that young people are having tremendous influence?
Oh, not very many. Only the Arab Spring and Wall Street and
Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street. What is it when the students who are fighting college debt, rolling jubilee.
Right. Black Lives Matter. You're being
Black Lives Matter.
sarcastic. You're being sarcastic to say, well,
what part of life haven't they affected would be a better question.
And absolutely, and the speed and with which events are happening. Black Lives Matter, student protests, anti-austerity protests in Spain. Everyone is responding to the new energies of the time, the Aquarian energies. What qualities of those energies do you think are prompting young people to speak out at the level that they are?
A lack of tolerance. That's primarily what they're expressing. And I so appreciate that, because they're not settling for, forgive me if I offend anybody, a Hillary Clinton. They don't want the status quo. That isn't taking them anywhere. So of course they're going to protest against that, or they're going to express it in some way. They don't have anything to look forward to. They don't have, there's no guaranteed health care. No guarantee that they have a job. I mean, the number of jobs that are the new number of new jobs that are being manifested right now is nothing compared to what it used to be. I mean, manufacturing jobs are disappearing. So where is the security? Why? How can you be satisfied with the status quo? So that is why kids are so important right now, because they're not entrenched in their homes and with a career job or anything.
Right. They're not shackled to having to pay mortgages. So they're free to say, hey, we're calling it on the BS that we're seeing.
Exactly.
We're going to continue this conversation after the break with Ron Cole Jr., who is in Northern California, talking about the surprising ways young people are impacting world events and transformation. Stay with us.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Share International Magazine is unique in the world today. It draws connections that make sense between headline news and spiritual changes unfolding now on a global scale, and explains the forces driving those changes. It may be the message of hope you have been waiting for. Investigate for yourself at shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. Shareontheairradio.org.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Are you wondering what is really going on behind the news? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share on the Air Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us on shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. Check it out.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back with Ron Cole Jr. talking about the surprising ways that young people are having an impact on world events. But we're going to go from macrocosm to microcosm. we're going to talk with Ron about what he does at his summer camps for young people. Tell us a little bit about, Ron, how you shifted from one concept to a different concept, a different structure to your camps. I find that very interesting.
Well, it started originally because I'm going to have to backtrack just a little bit because my whole impetus after I left Humboldt State University was I joined AmeriCorps, which is a domestic peace corps, and they sent me to Del Norte County, of all places. I thought I'd get sent to New York or Los Angeles, but I got sent to Del Norte County, and they said, we would like you to teach environmental education. And I was like, okay. So one thing led to another. I finished my term in AmeriCorps, and I was like, wow, I've got all these great skills. What can I do with them? And I thought, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll start a summer camp because 82% of Del Norte County is national and state parks anyway. I'll start this camp, and I'll share with the kids the things that I learned in AmeriCorps: leadership, team building, community activism. And it was so fun. It was great. I felt wonderful about what I was doing. I felt I had fun doing what I was doing. And then during the camp, one of the donors who had come on board at the camp said, you know, Ron, your camp is really good. But I'd like to introduce you to something else. And of course, during all this time, I've been doing transmission meditation. I had been going to the conferences, and I was acquainted through my father about Maitreya, Benjamin, and other things.
When you talk about conferences, there is an annual, just to explain to the audience, there's so many volunteers around the world who know this information, share it publicly, and here in North America we do gather once a year to share our accomplishments around making known the story of Maitreya, the world teacher and the masters of wisdom, just as a way of background. So you were just talking about how you've been immersed in this work. You and I do this work for a number of years. Go ahead.
Right. So here I am teaching, I've created the staff and a camp of, every week about 30 kids and focusing on leadership, team building, community activism when these new teachers, educators came in, and they were from the Tom Brown Jr. School of wilderness survival. And I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Okay, great. So they said, Ron, we want you to have another camp after your regular camp. You pick anybody who you want to be there, and we're going to just show you what we do. And don't worry about paying us because you're being taken care of by the sponsor. It's like, okay, great. So what they did, they called wilderness awareness and things like that. But what I saw in it was, sure, the survival skills are what got the kids interested and there and having a good time in the woods, developing that relationship with nature. But the other thing that they were doing was what Ben referred to possibly...
Benjamin Krem.
Benjamin Krem referred to as the self, I think. And what was amazing is that the kids were willing to stay in one place for long periods of time. They were willing to move slowly through the woods. And I was like, oh my gosh, they are totally into this. They are into themselves, not in the bad way, but in the good way. They have slowed their life down enough that this is it. This is the real thing. This is what community activism, leadership, and team building are all symptomatic of, which is getting an experience of the self.
And how did you bring them? What did you bring about to bring them there?
Well, I had to address the staff, and I said, guys, I think we're going to change our focus here. And because I wanted, frankly, I don't know myself. I really don't. I've wanted to, and I've been working on this, and I'm struggling. I'm failing.
Self with a capital S, you mean?
Yes, exactly. And I had staff members come up to me and say, "What are you talking about? I know who I am. I know myself." And I was like, "Uh-oh, this could be a problem." And sure enough, I lost my entire staff. I was like, wow, 2004, just getting things rolling, and I've lost everything. Well, I started talking to friends and saying, next summer I want to keep this camp going. But this is what I really want to do. And some people who had been part of the camp before and dropped out said, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm more interested in doing. And then other people started coming on, but it's just snowballed until, without missing a beat, the following summer, I had a staff that was not only working together brilliantly, but the most amazing part was that it was almost drama-free. I say almost because there's, memory tends to remember all the best things. But to my recollection, there was no drama. And really, there hasn't been any drama since 2005 with this new staff. And most of them have stayed on this entire time for the last 10, 11 years.
And they were drawn in because
of the difference between pursuing leadership, community activism, and team building, and the self is the difference between doing good works and pursuing truth, I felt. And once you've pursued truth, there's just no going back.
Truth about the self. So let's talk about that a little bit more. How do you teach that to kids? That sounds pretty dry.
That's a great question, because you can't go to a kid and say, "Hey, why don't we go to this tree and meditate for a half hour?" It ain't going to work. Their eyes are going to glaze over. But if you say to a kid, if you come to camp, we're going to teach you how to fox walk. And then we're going to teach you how to use deer ears. And then we're going to teach you how to use your owl eyes. And they go, "What? What's that?" Well, fox walking is is the skill of learning how to move through the woods absolutely silently. Deer ears is hearing sounds within sounds within sounds and making interpretations of that sound. Is that a sound that says I'm hungry, or is that a sound that says, watch out, I'm going to tag you? And your owl eyes is literally shifting your brain from the cognitive 2 + 2 = 4 state into the intuitive, where you just know the answer is somewhere around 4. And you can do that very easily. And it's a skill that stays with you for the rest of your life. I mean, you use it at camp in fun ways in the games and activities. And the deeper you go into your owl eyes, which is actually yourself, the better you are at the games. And then on top of that, there's a few real useful skills. I mean, when an artist is doing their art and they just zone out for 5 hours, 6 hours,
right,
and then they go, "Oh my gosh, what time is it?" That is when you're in the zone. That's where owl eyes puts you, this intuitive state. When you're studying in school and you want to remember a lecture better, that's the place you go to. You just kind of hold your hands out and you wiggle your fingers to both sides of your head and you keep going backwards until you can just barely see your fingers. And then you just stay in that place. You can put your arms down, and gradually, as we do at camp, you learn to move slowly and then move just a little bit less slowly so that you can actually do things while you're in this state, this dynamic meditative state. And so you're playing games. I'll give just one description of one game called Steal the Fire, where a child is sitting on the ground and they're blindfolded and they've got a big wad of keys sitting on the ground in front of them. Their job is to point at the people who are trying to steal their keys, and the other kids are in a big circle around them, about 20 feet away, and they're using their fox walking skills to silently move in, grab the keys, and silently get back to the circle without being pointed at. Now, by the middle of the week, these kids are really good at their fox walking skills, and there's no point in hearing them. At this point, you've got to switch over into your owl eyes skills, and you've got to trust your heart to tell you, okay, somebody is coming in from my left. I think I can feel that. I can't hear anything. I don't feel any sunlight being blocked, but I feel somebody's coming. And then you point that in that direction, and that person is out. That's when you start realizing, oh my gosh, I can trust myself. I can trust my heart. And that's because I
can trust my senses to guide me.
Exactly. I can trust my intuition to tell me.
Now that's a very different experience from being bent over your little Game Boy or whatever it is kids are clutching.
Right.
What is their reaction to that? What do they tell you about that experience?
It's very interesting because over the years, we have kids coming back over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, guys, we're doing the same thing next year. Why do you keep coming back? I mean, I literally interview them. And they say, I want to get better at my survival skills. and then, and I say, and is there something else? Because you are pretty good at your survival skills. And they kind of hem and they haw. It's like, They never have a solid answer. They know there's something else there, but they never have a solid answer. And that's because, and I'm speculating at this point, I think it's because you can't describe the sensation of briefly, however briefly, getting in touch with the real you, whatever that is.
The self.
The self.
The
right.
self. We've got to talk more about that. I think that's really interesting. We will continue with Ron Cole. If you want to find out more information about our show and the emergence of Maitreya, the world teacher, visit share-international.org. You'll find Share on the Air on Facebook. Stay with us. We'll be back after.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Did you know that Share International Radio is more than just a podcast? If you're hungry for thought-provoking views behind the news, there may be a Share International event happening soon near you, providing a spiritual perspective you'll find nowhere else. To locate an event in your area, visit shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on The Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
And we're back on Share on the Air Radio. I'm Cielito Pascual in Seattle, and I'm with Ron Cole in Northern California. You're in Humboldt County, yes, Ron?
Del Norte County. Just Humboldt County.
Oh, okay. Del Norte?
Del Norte.
It's
supposed to be pronounced Del Norte.
Oh, okay. Well,
of the North, but nobody here pronounces it that way, and I felt really silly saying that out in public.
Okay, Del Norte County. Thanks for being available and sharing your experience. And I just want to, I'm awfully curious. I would love, you mentioned before, you talked about how you offer your young people, you always teach them they always have a choice. And I want to ask you, do they leave their electronics at home? What do you do?
They don't leave their electronics at home, but they are not allowed to use them at camp. In the event of an emergency, we want them to have access to it, But would you like me to go over the parameters of the camp?
I think it's very interesting, and we'll start to tie that into Maitreya's teachings on the art of self-realization. But I think it's so interesting what you talked about before the show about giving kids a choice.
Well, at camp, we have what is called the camp core, CORE. And the first part of the core is choice. C for choice, because I just realized that, I don't know whether I was sitting down at a bar thinking about this or what, but it's like, we need some parameters. But choice was absolutely critical, because you don't have a choice as a child. You have a choice, but you don't realize that you have a choice. Mm-hmm. I mean, kids have a choice to go to school or not, but they want to keep their parents happy, so they go to school. But they don't feel like they have a choice. When you go to school, there's absolutely no choices. You have to learn math. You have to learn English. You have to learn science. So I thought it would be very, very important to have the camp make sure that the kids always had a choice. When the kids go to camp for the first time, they are interviewed. They're given a half-hour talk about the camp and what the priorities and what the protocols of the camp are. And then they're supposed to call me within 24 hours without influence from their parents, their siblings, or their friends, and let me know whether they want to go to camp or not. It's not a choice for anyone else. It's their choice. Mm. Then O in the core is for the one rule. There's only one rule at camp, and that is zero tolerance for creating an unsafe physical or emotional environment. And you can imagine why. I mean, it's hard to express yourself in an environment where people are going to call you stupid, or they might say your clothing is, just not cool or something. So zero tolerance for that. That means we love you, but we're going to take you home for the rest of the week. Now, the flip side of that is that you can come back to the next camp, or the following, if there's no more camps, you can come back next year free, no charge, because you need to learn that lesson of acceptance. You're not the problem. It's what you did that we take issue with.
So you make that distinction
very clearly
with the kids.
We tell them at the interview, when we send the parents the launch form, the parents go over it with them. And then on the first day of camp at orientation, it's the third time. And after that, there are no warnings. Mm-hmm. We love you, but we're taking you home.
And then R.
R is the most important aspect of our lives, everyone's lives on this planet. And that is relationships. It's all about relationships. If you have a great life, take a look at your relationships. How are you maintaining them? Are you changing the oil in your car? Are you telling your mom you love her every once in a while? But if you have a crappy life, take a look at how you're maintaining your relationships. Are you eating over your computer keyboard? Are you leaning back in your chair? Okay. You can look at a relationship in your hand objectively and say, how am I maintaining that relationship well?
Mm-hmm. Even a relationship with oneself.
Exactly. I mean, and the kids, nothing about camp is lecture. There's no, this droning on. That's no fun. It's just not fun to lecture. We call it drag and brag. We don't want to do that. So everything is experiential. When we feed the kids, 85% of the food at camp is organic. Mm. The relationships that they build amongst themselves, of course, zero tolerance. So, go the other direction. How do you build those relationships?
Mm-hmm. And then E.
Everything happens for a reason. If you're not at camp this year, it's because you're not supposed to be. You're supposed to be learning whatever you're supposed to be learning wherever you're at. And then come back next year and share it with us, because your experience isn't our experience, and you're the teacher now. Tell us, give us the story of what you went through, what happened. But it's just a philosophy that seems to cover all the bases.
Mm-hmm.
And
But for a kid, everything happens for a reason. What is that? What does that help a kid know? Knowing that everything happens for a reason.
That there is a plan, that they're being looked after.
That they're not being left out.
That they're not being left out.
Yeah, that's a big... I still remember being left out as a kid. So let's draw this back to before our break. We have about a minute. The art of self-realization. That's one of the major teachings of Maitreya. That's one of the, among many things that he's here to do with the Masters of Wisdom, to abolish all hunger in the world, to help us redistribute the world's resources. He's here to teach us the art of self-realization, which is honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, and detachment. And I think all of that connects to what you teach in your camp. Very quickly before the break, honesty of mind. Where do you see that showing up with your kids as they're learning and growing at camp?
Honesty of mind. The way I see that is when they have an experience of themselves, when they're playing these games, these activities, you can't lie to yourself. It doesn't occur to you to do that. When you get in touch with that real self, it shares itself. You want to share it. You want to share yourself. And I think I have to believe that is probably the most important thing that they get out of camp. And they can't even describe it. Just like you can't describe the self. But this honesty, this sincerity of spirit, and of course, the detachment which comes with everything, knowing that everything happens for a reason. And every year they see examples of that. And so it just grows in them. And I think that's why they keep coming back.
I think when you talk about fox, I thought we were coming to a break, but we've got more time. Fox walking, owl ears, or deer ears and owl eyes. That's really about putting oneself in the present moment, which to me is honesty of mind and sincerity of spirit. You can't try to be something you're not while you are doing fox walking. You have to focus on walking as quietly as possible.
Exactly. And I mean, there was another teacher who said something about that. I think it was Eckhart Tolle who said, it was called The Power of Now, was a book he wrote, where being in the present moment, and it works every time. Being in the present moment, you never forget where your keys are. You don't forget where your cell phone is. And I share this with the kids, and I say, how many of you have forgotten your backpacks? How many of you left it at school or something? Were you awake at the time that happened? No, you were thinking about something else. But you're right. Doing the skills puts them in the present moment. They are in the now. In fact, we don't tell the kids where we take them, because we take them to a different location every day, every year. We never try to repeat the program. We have 5 different locations on 4 different rivers.
Wow.
And so we mix it up every year. And as a result, the parents are given a sheet with informing them where the kids are going to be. But the kids themselves are never told where they're going to be going, because we want them in the present without expectations.
In the art of self-realization, I mean, it sounds so simple. And earlier you used the word we talked about conditioning and the freedom of a child's mind to express oneself. Let me try to find my thought here. Can you share the story with me about the boy who insulted another kid and the choice you gave him? I love that story. Can you share that with our audience?
It was about 2 years ago on a Thursday, second to last day of camp, and this young boy by the river they're making these rock arches and things like that, and they're having a discussion together, this boy, this girl, and a couple of other kids. And the girl says something, or was challenged to spell something, and the kid says, "What? You don't know how to spell the? What are you, stupid or something?" And he realized what he had said, or what he was in process of saying. And there were a couple of counselors around, and he knew that was it, because there's zero tolerance for that kind of behavior. And so, as a counseling group, we got together and we said, okay, it's the second to last day of camp. We know the rules, but is it possible to bend them a little bit at this point? Because we really don't want to send him home with 1 day left. And one of the counselors said, well, why don't ask him to find a way to make the relationship better. Not the same, not by saying sorry, because that just brings it to the status quo. How do you make the relationship better than it was? And that'll be his challenge. So we gave him until the end of the day to figure out a way to make the relationship not just normal, but better, so that she feels safe to be at camp. And he was so bummed out. He was flipping over rocks and things. I'll say this very quickly. And he said, I know what, I'll be her protector.
You'll be her protector. That's definitely keeping her feeling safe for the rest of camp. That's a wonderful story. We will be back with Ron Cole Jr. talking about young people and the transformation of our world. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Maitreya's Mission, the book by Benjamin Krem, is a riveting exploration of life ahead. It reveals how the world teacher, Maitreya, and other ancient guardians of the human race are emerging now and are showing us how to release our divine potential. Investigate for yourself at shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Alicia Isaacs-Howes.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. You can find us every week here on OMTimes Radio at Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business. And share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Are you wondering what is really going on behind the news? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold-Holland on Share on the Air Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us on shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. Check it out.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
And we're back. final segment of Share on the Air Radio with Ron Cole Jr. And Ron, oh gosh, you just brought up everything you shared can easily be applied to us grown-ups. And I think what I hear you describing about your summer camps is really the very focused intention of creating an environment where a young person feels safe to be themselves. And that's a powerful gift to give to young people, but that's a powerful gift we can give to each other to help another person feel that they are safe to express themselves and to be who they are. And that's really the art of self-realization as Maitreya teaches it. What have you noticed with young people when they start the camp and then when they finish the camp? What becomes available to them that wasn't available to them when they came in? What are they experiencing, do you think?
I'll answer that. But I just wanted to share with you something you just said reminded me of an article that I read in the New York Times. It was about Google spending $40 million to put together the perfect team. And I was intrigued by that because I love working on teams. I absolutely love it. And what they discovered after $40 million is that by not just sharing your strengths in the team, which is something we all do naturally, but sharing your vulnerabilities was critical to making the team gel, making them feel comfortable with each other. Because as soon as one person said, my name is Ron Cole, and I'm really, really nervous about my performance on this team, and I really want to do well, but I've got some issues, and I want to share those issues with you. When you do things like that, it lets everybody else know that they can be vulnerable, that they can open up. And that translates to summer camp. For example, in the first thing we do every morning is we have this, what we call a Thanksgiving circle, and then a highs, lows, thanks at the end of the day. And at the beginning of the week, the kids are like, they have the choice to speak or not because they have the choice to participate in any of the activities. But it's usually, I'm thankful for the Giants. I'm thankful for the
sports team,
Miami Dolphins, thankful they won or whatever. And by the middle of the week, they realize, oh wow, I really am in a safe environment. I'm grateful for the river. I'm grateful I can get to swim in that amazing river. And then by the end of the week, I am so grateful that I got to go to this camp. I'm so grateful for Counselor John. I'm so grateful for all the new friends that I met. It is amazing to watch them bloom. That child that we were talking about before the break, he's moved out of the area. But I'm willing to bet that he's probably not forgotten that experience and what he got out of it. Because he had to open up to let that information come through.
Right, and to make the choice that he made.
Right. I mean, he was amazing. He'd race to get into the food line, and then he'd give his place to the girl that he was protecting.
Oh, my goodness. That is... How old was he?
He was 11 years old.
Wow. And that's more than just saying, sorry. That's thinking.
Yeah. That's not improving the relationship.
Right, right. It's being aware beyond the moment of remorse or upset. It's thinking about the other person. That's really beautiful. And, what if we took that on a international global scale and into international relationships. You don't just say sorry. You think about how can I make the future of this country who was my rival better. It's what we can learn from kids is extraordinary.
You'd be making history.
Absolutely. And
what would that look like if you did something like that? What would it look like if you wanted to make the relationship not just good, but great?
Well, you would have to humanity would have to completely redefine the basis of how we relate.
Exactly.
And that is what Maitreya is here to do, to inspire us to do. See, what you do, you play in the microcosm. You and your counselors are kind of like Maitreya and the masters, not to overstate, but in the world of these wonderful kids, you're creating a space and inspiring young people to see themselves anew.
I had a friend or someone come up to me and say, "Ron, that's real Buddhism stuff you're doing there at that camp." Like, what do you mean? Well, the kids, they screw up and they're kicked out of camp forever. Well, at least until the following week with this new group of kids. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, it's like they died and then they came back again." Like, oh, I get it. Okay. I get it. Okay. They reincarnated into a new camp. All right. So yeah, I guess
they get a new lease on life. They get a do-over.
Right.
But yeah, that's I think how I connect your experience to our humanity's relationship with Maitreya and the Masters is very similar. Maitreya, you're not there to live those kids' lives. You're not there to tell them if you do this, this will happen. If you do good, I'll give you this reward. If you do bad, then you'll be punished. You let them know what their choices are, what the repercussions of their actions are for good or for ill, and you give them choice.
Well put. I never thought of it that way, but yeah.
and that's how Maitreya is not here to fix the world for us. The masters are not here to fix the world for us. They're not here to correct the divisions between the 99% and the 1%. They're here to inspire all of humanity, for us to reawaken to our divinity and to a new way of relationship. And what would that be like if the United States related differly to Russia, and instead of whichever countries in the world related differently in the Middle East, instead of arming ourselves to the teeth, thought about what can we do that would make everyone feel safe? Did you have any ideas?
Pursuing what you love is, that again, I'm sorry, I'm talking at the microcosm and you're talking at the macro, but I think for me, if I was going to make a suggestion is to do that which you love. Keep working on yourself, because as you work on yourself, you start making a better world, better globe aura around yourself that magnetically attracts others. And pretty soon they realize, just need to pursue what I love. And then the United States needs to pursue what it loves. And then, this builds on itself.
Putting people first.
Oh, yeah.
Ahead of profits. I have to add.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I have to, just from my own experience, this is what's amazing to me, is that I still feel like this is my first year of running a nonprofit. After 15 years, it still feels like the first year. And I can't believe that I would never have believed that anybody could feel this way after working on something this long. I've been the kind of person who likes to do something for 3 years, gets it down, moves on. But doing this is so much fun.
It sounds like your true calling. So let's leave our audience with what can we do? What can we do to support young people as we're moving into this profound transitional period, and with the Maitreya and the Masters poised to emerge into the modern world at any minute, really. We will still have a lot of work to do, and young people will be a part of that. What can we do for the younger generation?
Marilyn Manson said it best. Listen to them. Listen to them. Because what they say is clear and from the heart. And what's good for them is going to be good for all of us.
Tell us what has happened to graduates from your camp. What have they gone on to do?
Oh my gosh. I am so blown away by the fact that we've had kids that not only after 6 years say, I still want to come back to camp and be counselors for camp. We now have kids who are old enough to actually have become board members. Kids who have gone on to be in local elections.
Wow.
And get into the double digits. We've had kids who've gone and become Bill and Melinda Gates Millennial Scholars.
That's wonderful. Ron, we're coming to the end here. Thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Cielito. Thank you for everything that you do.
You too. You're very welcome. And listeners, stay tuned. Next week, Diana Gould will return. Have a great show every Sunday.